everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I have another interview for you today. I had a really good time with this one, and it was one of those ones that I almost didn't ask for the screener and ask for the interview, and I'm glad I did. And nothing against the talent and nothing against the movie itself. It just didn't feel like the normal kind of movie that I would be into, but I'm glad I watched it because it was clever, it was well made. I will have a review for it, so I don't have to go too far into that. Anyway, the movie is called In a New York Minute, and I got to talk to two of the stars, Yi Liu and Amy Chang. It's almost an anthology. It's a few different stories following these women in New York City, you know, in a New York Minute, of course. And they kind of do bump into each other at times, but a lot of the story is, you know, Yi Liu's character story, Amy Chang's character story, and it was very clever in the way it was made, so it was fun to get to talk to them. It was also cool to get to talk to two of the different women in it. It would have been cool to get all three. There was a scheduling conflict, unfortunately, but it was cool to get their insight and to be able to talk to them about it. And it was also cool that we did get to talk in May. I'm a little late releasing this. We got a little bit backed up, which kind of sucks because May was Asian American and Pacific Island Heritage Month, and this is almost entirely an all Asian American cast. And this was actually made before Shang-Chi, before Crazy Rich Asians, and I think there was something else that they mentioned in the interview. So it was just cool that this indie was kind of ahead of the Hollywood wave, and I'm all for people having their stories told. And even though I said at the top that this movie didn't look like something that was my normal go-to, I really enjoyed it and appreciated the performances and how it was made. That's enough rambling from me. Enjoy the interview. Hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I'm sitting down with Yi Liu and Amy Chang. I hope I pronounced your name right. I probably should have asked you before I hit record.
It's pretty clear.
Okay. Well, how are you both doing?
Great.
Thanks for taking the time to come on. I'm sure you're very busy. The movie just came out, so that's cool.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. What I like to do with creative people is before we get to your current project is kind of ask just for like a quick rundown of what made you interested in acting and how you got your start. So Yi, if you want to start.
Yeah, sure. I've always loved acting since when I was very young. I just didn't know I could pursue it as a career. And as you can imagine, parents were most likely not like this choice because it's not stable. It's kind of tough. But I was born and raised in China, and my dad, it was my dad's idea. My dad said, you should go out and see the world. Don't be the frog, stay at the bottom of the well who thinks the sky is tiny. It's a saying, it's an idiom, 井底之蛙. So my dad used to say, don't be that frog. But he didn't care what I do if I go out. So my dad unfortunately passed away. So kind of fulfilling his dying wish, I decided to go out. And I've never been to America, never been to New York. It sounds amazing. I was in Shanghai at the time, made a few friends who loved New York. So I think, okay, speaking English, it would be easier for me than picking up any other language from scratch. So I just think, okay, I'll go to New York. And here I come. I registered myself into acting programs. Here I am.
Wow, just head first.
Yeah, I love that idiom. That's really beautiful. I'm going to remember that. So actually, my journey has been a little all over the place. I didn't know that I wanted to be an actor when I was younger, but I did love performing. So I have a very distinct memory of in second grade how we did a play. I think it was like all the major fairy tale characters, and then there was me, and there's a picture of me where I'm in this pastel leotard with wings. I don't know what character I was supposed to be. I think the teachers were just very generous, and they let me make up my own character. And then as I grew older, I played with the flute and the violin, and I realized looking back that as much as I love music, what I really enjoyed about those experiences was the performance aspect of it. I really loved engaging the audience and giving and receiving that feedback. And so when I got to college, I decided to try my hand at student theater and some of the student films on campus, and fell in love with it. So then when I graduated, I thought, oh, what the heck, I'll go ahead and explore New York. Well, because I was going to school in Providence, Rhode Island. I did an internship in New York my junior year, and I kind of knew a little bit of the lay of the land. So I decided, now or never, just let me try my hand at this, and the rest is history.
Wow, that's awesome. And it's cool that both of you had the idea to, well, I guess New York was kind of it wasn't the destination for acting. It just kind of became the place to go to, and then acting was also there.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of cool because a lot of people I would think Los Angeles.
Yeah, I think it's the two big coasts. Although nowadays it's expanded to so many other regions. I think especially because of all the advances in technology, and then probably the tax breaks that certain states
Georgia,
like Atlanta, North Carolina, Texas. There are all these other areas now, but I think New York and LA still tend to dominate. So I think it was either LA or New York, and
right.
so we had a foothold in New York. That's how I chose.
Sorry, was that's how you chose?
Yes, because I already had experience in New York.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And Rhode Island is right next door, so that's awesome. Have you been traveling, or either of you, a lot for different projects? Because you just mentioned a whole bunch of places that are getting more and more popular for filming.
Mostly for me, it's still Los Angeles and New York. Yeah.
Are you both still based in New York?
Yeah, I live here. One of the project I did filmed mostly in America, part of it in China. So yeah.
Okay.
Going home.
And you too, Amy?
Yes, mostly in New York, Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn, so
okay. Yeah, that was a cool thing about in a New York Minute. I mean, obviously New York's in the title, so you figure it's shot there, but New York City seems to be one of the few places that they never try to double in Los Angeles. Like, New York City is New York City. It's its own thing. So it's cool to see the familiarity.
Yeah.
And it probably...
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it probably made it easy for you too, because it's basically in your backyard that you're shooting.
Yeah, and I'll say also that, New York City is so approachable because of the subways, and then also more and more pedestrian walkways and bikeways. So especially during the pandemic, I think we were looking for ways to be outside. And so my husband and I came to experience more of New York. There were certain parts of the city and also the boroughs that we had never experienced, even though I've lived here for almost 15 years. And that was really nice to kind of get a chance to explore the city more. And in the movie, I feel like there are parts of New York that are highlighted that you don't necessarily see in the blockbusters. So I think blockbusters tend to highlight, the skyscrapers or the buildings in Manhattan. And in a New York Minute, there are scenes in Brooklyn, in Queens, and it just gives a fuller view of the city than is usually depicted.
Right, more of the day-to-day life than the tourist attractions. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Well, let's rewinding a little bit. How did In a New York Minute come across both of your desks? Like, how did you hear about the roles?
I just got casting call and I read the breakdown, and I think I resonate with Angel Lee, and so I auditioned for it, and then I got called back, and that's the first time I met Mandy, Shiman, and Wayne. And then the next thing I know, I was cast for this part, so I was very excited.
So you got to read the whole script and then choose the role you wanted to go after?
No, the first round of audition was just a breakdown and a summary of what the story is about, where we're going to film, in a rough timeline at the time. And and then I think I read the script perhaps before the callback. Yeah. I'm freaking out.
Okay, that's cool. So you had a good idea of what you were walking into, and you got to did you get to choose the character that you felt you resonated with, or did they say, "How about this character?" and it happened to resonate with you?
I think they suggested the
Okay.
casting all said to me was for Angel Lee. And upon reading the script, it is true that I think I resonate with Angel Lee the most.
Okay. So the casting director was on. They did their job right.
Oh yeah.
And how about for you, Amy? It was kind of a similar experience.
It was a similar experience. So a lot of the actors, we tend to use different casting websites, and the one that I saw this casting on was for Actors Access. And so I saw the breakdowns for all the different characters for Angel Lee, for Amy Chen, which is the character I ultimately auditioned and booked, and then for Nina, which is the character that Celia Lau ended up being cast for. And I remember thinking that it really stood out to me as a breakdown because it had three Asian American female leads. So first of all, the fact that there were three leads, and then the fact that it was Asian and Asian American female leads, which weren't very common and still aren't. So I knew immediately that there was something special about this project, and I knew that I wanted to be involved in some way. And so even though I felt I had a connection to each of the characters, I think ultimately Amy Chen was the one that drew me the most, and was the one I was called in to audition for and then cast for.
That's really cool how it lined up for both of you, where it was the character that you felt you would have probably picked anyway, and you got to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always interested in that part of the process because it seems like everyone does a little bit different, where sometimes you hear that it's just kind of an open cat. You'd go in and read and they'd say, "Oh, that really works for this character." You know, so the fact that they picked it and then found you and it lined up, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Do you know if they tailored the character at all based on you being cast, either of you?
I don't think so. I think the characters were pretty much written as is, and maybe our personal interpretations of them, but I don't think anything was changed in the script to fit us personally.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, because it feels very real. Like everything felt super authentic in the movie. Like nothing felt like, it didn't feel like performance, which I don't mean that as like a knock to your profession, because obviously that's kind of the goal, but it just all felt so natural. And I think it was things like it being those more intimate parts of New York City, and it just felt very grounded.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And I think
absolutely.
that's also a testament to the storytelling abilities of our director of Mandy, and then also our cinematographer, Mego Lin. I think they trusted the audience to go along for the ride, because it is a slower paced film than, for instance, the Marvel action movies
Right.
or like major Hollywood blockbusters, where there's a lot of like fast cuts. And the In a New York Minute takes each of these stories and allows them to be told. And so I think that also lends itself to the feeling of naturalism, and the pacing just reveals the story to viewers in a way that feels very real life.
Yeah, that's a good point. The pacing for sure, because it is a thing where it seems like every movie that comes out from like a major studio is just faster, faster, no matter what it is, and you just can't keep up. Like pretty soon, movies are going to be 15 minutes long to get a 2-hour story. You kind of mentioned the movie having multiple stories. So for people who haven't seen it, it almost, maybe I'm describing the wrong way, but to me it almost played out kind of episodic, even though there was like a little bit of overlap with all the stories. Was that part of your full script experience when you got to read it, or are you kind of more focused on just your specific area?
I think it's just three stories, and there is like perhaps like one part, one or two scenes that we are actually together. That's actually what I like about the script. I really love the structure. Three separate stories, so three strangers, but yet they are actually connected. I feel like that's like life as well, that we're not that many degrees far away from another person. So I love the subtlety, how we tie it together. In terms of filming, we do have our chunks to film kind of separately, but I feel like I've always been aware that they are there, as in the story that, oh, this is the editor that I'm working with, and I ran into in the hallway of my lover's place. And yeah, and like I encountered Celia Ao as Nina in the KTV space, kind of awareness of their existence, and but also filmed it like I'm going through my life.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And then also prior to production, prior to when we started filming, we did do a large group read. And so that gave us an opportunity to kind of hear each other's voices and how all of the elements tied together for the whole film. But in terms of the way that we shot too, I think what Yi said, we did ultimately tend to shoot each of our story segments separately, and then we just had a few days where we had the opportunity to shoot those scenes where we overlapped.
That's a really cool way to do it. And kind of going back to your comments on the pacing, having it almost restart a few different times really like re-engages the audience. You know, you're watching it, you kind of think you have it figured out, like, oh, I know where the story's going. And sometimes you didn't. And then you kind of get like a fresh new take on the story. So you're like, oh, okay, what's going on? You're right back into it.
Right.
So it was really clever.
Mm-hmm.
Was this, when was this shot?
Do you remember? It was pre-pandemic.
Okay, yeah, pre or post.
Time has kind of lost meaning for me.
Exactly, yeah. Like last year was 5 years ago. Yeah, I feel you.
So, but yes.
2017.
Okay. I was just wondering if the way it was divided, was that a COVID necessity to, you know, keep the cast and crew smaller? It was just the story.
It was just the story. And also, cool. I think indie filmmaking in general, we had a limited amount of time in each location, so it also was part of the reason why we shot in chunks like that, is because they probably locked down certain locations for a few days, so we had to shoot those storylines during that time and then move on to the next location / next storyline.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Was the shoot very, very fast like that?
I would say so. It was within a month, wasn't it, Yi? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I think so. I remember my part had about like 15 to 17 days-ish. Yes. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the exact schedule.
Right, of course, yeah.
About that time. It was like a couple days of overlapping the other two characters when we were together. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So,
and actually, Adam, when you're talking about time, to put it into perspective, also, this was prior to Crazy Rich Asians coming out, Shang-Chi, Everything Everywhere All at Once. So that was also just to kind of give viewers a sense of framing, why the breakdown initially stood out so much, because again, because it was such a strong Asian and Asian American led cast, there just weren't that many of those coming out, and especially for feature films too. So it was a really, I'm really grateful that we had this opportunity to tell this story.
That's a really good point. The fact that it was made before, because now it seems like, oh, it makes sense to make that as an indie because it's kind of riding the wave that the larger budget movies are doing, but it's the other way around.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because those are three massive movies that have done very, very well. So
yes,
I guess your release now is kind of, coming full circle where you can use that momentum. So that's cool.
Right. And also, I think
me, Amy, that was really a good point. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even consider it when I was watching it.
Right. And also, I think the hope was to have it come out, the distribution come out for AAPI Heritage Month. So May is traditionally known as that. So it just kind of all has been fortuitously.
Yeah, it all kind of fell into place nicely.
Yeah.
Which is good because there was probably some bumps in the road because of the whole pandemic, I'm assuming.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Did you get to take this around to any kind of film festivals, or have either of you ever got to see it with a live audience?
Yes, fortunately, we had that. So we did a film, I remember, in 2017. And of course, it took a bit of time for the post. And then we entered couple of film festivals, and we got to see it with audience in the theater. We got to chat. Yeah, and then it's when pandemic hit. We were thinking that the movie will go somewhere right after, but because of the pandemic, there was like a period of time that was everything was pausing. So was this movie. So now we're seeing that this movie is finally coming out. Yeah.
Okay. That was one thing that I whenever I talk to, creative people like yourselves or writers or directors or anything in the movie business, it's always such a shame when they didn't get to see all their work with a live audience, because that's kind of like your Super Bowl. It's like, we did it here. Do people respond the way we want? So it's great you got to.
Yes, it was really rewarding to hear the audience reactions, to hear that they enjoyed the jokes that were in the film, and also to some of the gasps at some of the elements of surprise that came up in the film too. This film had everything.
Yeah.
And then to continue on with that, I want to just highlight also how grateful we are that it has gotten distribution, because I don't know if everyone is aware that, first of all, it's amazing that it made it into festivals and that it got such great reception. But then to actually get distribution is really challenging, and especially for indie films. And so to be able to share this with our friends and family who don't live in major cities that have film festivals and couldn't necessarily attend those, to now be able to see the work that we put into this beautiful story has been also so rewarding.
Yeah, for sure. That's good.
I'm really happy for this movie. It's available on VOD. So my friends who has been asking me, like, where can we see this? Mm-hmm. Yeah, here you go.
Yeah. Especially because you shot it so many years ago. They're like, can we see your movie already?
Right.
Yes.
Was it kind of weird that like you shot it in, you said 2017, I believe, and now here we are, maybe 5 years later or almost 5 years later, depending on when you shot it. Did it kind of like leave your minds for a while and now it's like back and fresh?
I think for me, a little bit. Although, like, after filming the movie, we all became friends, and people never leave my life. I mean, they're always in my heart. And we have a group chat. We text each other every now and then. But yeah, in terms of the movie itself, it's been a couple of years, and I actually recently watched it again.
Get a flood of memories.
Yeah, and I just genuinely want to see how it feels like when I watch it by myself on my own television instead of theater. Mm-hmm. And do I see anything more or different than before? Yeah, and as a person, we all grow. I grew, and I want to look back to see 5 years ago. Does everything still make sense to me, and so on? And it's been a great experience watching it again.
Okay, I was going to ask and how was the experience? It was good.
Yeah, it was good. It was definitely good.
Awesome. Okay. I didn't know it's one of those things where as a performer, you're like, no, I wouldn't have made that choice. Oh, I would have done that different. Not that I saw any holes in what you guys have done, but.
Thank you.
How about you, Amy? Oh,
I was going to say, tagging on to what you was saying, one of the things that has really stayed with me since making this film is just how close-knit our cast and crew has remained. It's making a film is such a fast-paced, stressful situation, because you're trying to juggle multiple aspects of production, and you're working on your character, and then just thinking about like the upcoming scenes and everything. And it's like a machine. But even within that, we were able to develop these relationships that have stayed with me. So going back to your question earlier about just being able to be in touch with this family, essentially like another family that I had for a little while, has stayed with me throughout. So even if the character hasn't been forefront in my mind, obviously for the past 5 years, I still just being able to be in touch with everybody who was involved with the film has has been with me.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really cool to hear too that you guys all had a bond and became friends, because it was such a quick shoot and most of your scenes were not together. So that's awesome that you gelled so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about going forward now? Do you have any big things in the works that you might want to talk about a little bit, or you can talk about?
Well,
do you want to? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Either way, I just.
One of my best friends, Janine Flynn, and her husband, Adam Charleston, have a production company called Cleomark Productions. And we've done a couple of projects, Customer 935 and Emma Z, which was shot during the pandemic. It was actually a Zoom project, so that was really interesting. And we have another project coming out called The Sleeper Awakens, where I play a magical creature, sort of.
Okay, so something way different.
Yes.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm auditioning, and hopefully there are more things coming up. And Confetti is another feature film that I played a principal supporting role in. It's still showing around in different communities. It was released last year in theaters like AMC, and now they're showing separately in different communities around the world. So,
very cool. Yeah. Well, congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
With doing all these different projects, because In New York Minute is very much a drama, it's very steeped in reality. Have you gotten to really kind of explore the gamut and done a little bit of everything? And if so, what's your favorite kind of things to do?
I would always be open to exploring more. I would love to do a sci-fi fantasy character. I haven't. That's one that is on my bucket list. But yes, I feel fortunate that I've done horror films, which are super fun because of the gory makeup and all the special effects. I'm so impressed with special effects makeup artists and all the magic that they're able to create in real life. Not relying on digital special effects necessarily, although those have their place too, of course.
For sure. I do like this return to practical effects that we've been seeing.
Right. And then in terms of like the type, I love dramas also, but as a person, I think I tend to, I'm pretty like, I'm a little awkward and a little quirky and silly. And so it's fun to be able to stretch those muscles and also to play the dramatic roles, because ultimately they're all inside you, right? But to try to highlight those aspects of your personality more. And that's one of the reasons why I love acting, is to be able to explore those different sides of myself.
Very cool. How about you, Yi?
I was just talking about this yesterday. I fancy fantasies. I want to be in sci-fi as well.
Let's do it, Yi.
Yeah,
there you go.
or like a magic setup, some sort. Yeah, I would like to do that.
Those do seem really fun, like these big grand scale, like epics where everything is just out of someone's imagination. They seem really cool to be, look behind the scenes on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate both of you taking the time out of your day. I mean, I'm sure you got a lot going on. Do you want to take another minute to just share your socials or anything else you might want to plug?
Yes, absolutely. Welcome to follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is IAMYILIU. I am Eliu, my name.
Okay,
and
great.
Instagram for me is Miss Temptation, but that's spelled MISSTEMPTASIAN, as in Temptation.
Clever. I like that. Well, thank you both for coming on again. I do appreciate you taking the time, and congratulations on the movie. I thought it was really well made, really well acted. So anyone listening, I urge to check it out on VOD.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
I'd like to thank Amy and Yi one more time for coming on the show to talk to me about In a New York Minute, which is available now on VOD. Please make sure you like and subscribe. We have a lot more interviews, new movie coverage, new series coverage, Amazon screeners, comic reviews, unboxings, all the stuff you love coming your way. You're not going to want to miss out. Speaking of not missing out, make sure you listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week wherever you get your podcasts. So Wizard Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows, audio and video. SoWizardPodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, videos, merchandise, and more. We love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments, leave us something on social media. All the accounts will be found after the show and in the show notes. And on a more personal note, a good friend and I have an ongoing comedy comic series. It's called Social Studies. Follows a group of friends through high school, dealing with all the insanity of high school, all the craziness that we all went through. We write it like a sitcom. We style it after the 90s cartoons that we grew up on and inspired us. We try to put our own original spin on everything. We've been having a great time doing it, getting some great feedback. 9 issues currently available. 10 and 11 are at the printer, just waiting on supplies. And 12 is being wrapped up and 13 is being worked on. So tons of content coming your way. You can find it all at socialstudiescomic.com. We are on the socials, and also we're on Comixology, including Comixology Unlimited. Check us out. Thanks.